Derby County are among a host of clubs interested in the signing of Regan Slater from Hull City. Regan Slater is a 25-year-old central midfielder who has played a majority of the games for Hull City this season. Now, this comes from Sports Boom. I'll put the link to the article down in the description, as well as a picture of the tweet on screen now. Now, obviously, this news came out a couple of weeks ago-ish, but I wasn't entirely sure about the the basis of it, if I'm completely honest. Now, obviously, for me, when we're looking at transfers right now and looking at someone like Regan Slater, I think it's really difficult to give a true and honest assessment of whether it would be a good signing or not. Because for one, we don't know which midfielders are staying at the club. For two, we don't know what division we're going to be in, so we don't exactly know what we're actually looking for. Now, obviously, Regan Slater at 25 years old still has probably another 10 years left in his career. At Hull City is currently contracted until 2026, but there is a club option for an extra year which would take it to 2027. He does stand at 1.71 metres tall and valued at €3.5 million by Transfer Market. Now, this season he's made 41 appearances, scoring once, assisting once and collecting 6 yellow cards, playing a total of 2,808 minutes. Now, this season so far he's played in a range of different positions, from defensive midfield to that sort of number 8 role, and a couple of roles, and on occasion in that number 10 role. He's also played at right back, at right wing back, and on occasion, just the one occasion, he's played as a centre forward according to Transfer Market. Now, obviously, if we talk about Regan Slater, I don't necessarily think this is a horrific sort of link, if I'm completely honest with you. He's played 138 times in the Championship, 8 goals, 9 assists, 19 yellow cards, 10,170 minutes. And in my opinion, he's well experienced at this level. And that's what Derby County is sort of lacking in that midfield at the moment. And obviously, when you look at a player like Regan Slater, who is sort of... He is essentially one of the key players at Hull City with how many games he's played and things like that. And obviously he's versatile across the course of midfield, can play out at wing back as well, which is good in my opinion, having that versatility. But for me, is it really a deal which we really want to get done? Obviously, in my opinion, I think some of the midfielders we've got at the moment probably maybe aren't quite up to scratch. I think, I'm not going to say Ben Osborn isn't good enough, because when he's fit, he is. But ultimately is one of those players who isn't always fit, and it's one of those where I do think over the course of probably the summer next season will probably become more of a backup option, which realistically, if we look across the course of this season, he probably has been. You look at an Ebou Adams, you're probably not going to take him out at the moment. Obviously, we lose Harrison Armstrong in the summer, and obviously potentially Liam Thompson as well. So there's lots of topics of discussion when it comes to a signing like Regan Slater, because yes, he comes in and would instantly add that Championship experience, but does he add more quality than what we've already got? Or would we be better off to sort of stick with, obviously, an Ebou Adams, a Liam Thompson, a Kenzo, Goudmijn, one of those? Obviously, I believe Marcus Harness is out of contract this summer as well, and we know that he can play in those midfield roles as well. But for me, I sort of feel as if this would be a good deal for Derby if he's sort of like a backup option and not like our main midfield target, because I personally believe we need a lot more quality in our midfield heading into next season, and I think John Eustace will probably agree with that as well. I don't necessarily believe that the midfield we've got now is terrible, but I also don't think it's going to be a midfield that will have us secure and stable in the Championship across the course of 46 games if we look at injuries and things like that, which we've had this season, losing David Ozo, Ben Osborn, and obviously players like that across the course of this season. And ultimately, I think what Derby County really need is a proper sort of dictator within that midfield, and where they're going to come from, I'm not entirely sure. And can Regan Slater be that man? I'm not entirely sure, but it's certainly an option for Derby County to look at. Now, in my opinion, as I said a little bit earlier on in this video, it's really difficult to sort of address links that are going around at the moment. Obviously, it's April. In a month's time, we'll know exactly what we'll be looking at and how we're going to be looking at it, because we'll know if we're in the Championship or not. And that is the big conversation at the moment is, yes, you can have List A and List B, and some of them may overlap, and some of them may be willing to drop down to League One to play for Derby County. Some of them also may not be willing to drop down to League One. But that's sort of the conversation at the moment, is the division we're going to be in. And at the moment, we can't sort of, in my opinion, speak to any agents about deals or anything like that, because obviously we don't know where we're going to be. We don't know what we're going to be able to offer, because obviously if we go down, the deal we're going to be able to offer is going to be very, very different to that deal that is potentially available if we stay up, and obviously the wage demands will change, obviously amount of football that we can potentially offer, like the squad role type thing, that will be massively different depending on division, because if you bring Regan Slater into a League One team, he's probably a starter, but if you bring him into a Championship team that's going to further improve on their midfield, he may not be a starter. He may be sort of a rotational player that has got to earn that sort of starting berth, a bit like Liam Thompson has done this season. Obviously, it's come through the likes of injuries and stuff, but you have to take your opportunity, and that's something which I think Liam Thompson's done this season. And if Regan Slater was to come in next year, Liam Thompson was to stay, do we start the season with the current midfield we've got now, obviously without Harrison Armstrong? There obviously is that potential, and would Regan Slater be the man that could step in to replace Armstrong next season should Everton not allow Armstrong to come back? And that's obviously a massive topic of discussion that's going to come up across the course of the next few weeks, because if you look at John Eustace and what Harrison Armstrong has done since he's come into the side, you'd probably argue that he should be one of the first names on the list for Derby County should we stay up. Ultimately, I believe if we go down, we've got absolutely no chance of bringing Harrison Armstrong back, but there's these sort of conversations that need to be ongoing. There's a couple of links out there for sort of like forwards and wingers and midfielders that are in Europe and stuff. I made videos on them probably about a month ago now, and it's one of those for me where I do believe that we have the ideas right with John Eustace to be able to build a top quality Championship side that he'll probably push to the top half, maybe even the top six, as we've seen him do with Blackburn, with Birmingham and things like that already. But obviously that important statement lies purely based on if Derby County stay in the Championship division. And obviously right now we can't say for sure that Derby County are going to do that. Now, if we do go and look at the Championship League table as we close out this video, Derby County are level on points with Cardiff City. Goal difference is going to have a massive impact. Cardiff play up against Preston next. Derby face up against Burnley. Now, if you're Regan Slater at Hull City, you're only 3 points ahead of Derby County, one of the main figures in the team. Do you really want to move? That is a big question mark. I personally think that you probably would. I think Derby's a bit of a bigger club than Hull City. I think they've got sort of better facilities and a better all-round situation where Derby could potentially push on to the next level a bit quicker than Hull City maybe can. I think the big problem with Derby this year was we didn't make decisions early enough. That then impacted us in the transfer window, which has ultimately left us with a very, very shallow squad, which means that we obviously had to bring on Lennon Wheeldon at the weekend to play as that number 9, taking over from Caden Jackson when he got injured, and that's something which obviously is going to have to be sorted as we head into the 2025-26 season. And is Regan Slater, the 25-year-old midfielder, going to be the player to take that sort of mantle from a Harrison Armstrong, from a Liam Thompson, and get himself a Derby County contract for starters, and obviously potentially a starting berth under John Eustace? These are questions which are going to have to be asked over the course of the next few weeks and months. Let me know your thoughts on the potential signing of Regan Slater down in the comments. If you have not done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to stay tuned for all of my latest Derby County content coming your way, and I'll catch you in my next video.